to admit, my memory's kind of shaky. I don't remember a whole lot that happened when I grew up. I depend on other people to help me remember what happened. Oh. I'd say to my mother, do you remember when I was 12 and I threw up at a restaurant for some medicine and that? When I was 12, I don't remember. I said, do you remember the day you went out when I was 23? What did I do after that? Yeah, my mother, yeah. She remembers me throwing up. She remembers all of those things that happened during my lifetime. My mother would take me to see a play without interpreters or anything. And I'd sit down, I'd see this movie. I was kind of boring, you know. I'd fidget around and that. You know, the camera would zoom in and zoom out on people on the screen. And they had these pictures. But there was no words, no captioning or anything. But they'd tell a story. It was powerful seeing that. Boy, there's one movie that I remember to this day, one of them. E.T. How many folks have seen that? Raise your hand. Yeah, all of you. Okay. Wow. This was the first, I remember we went to the movie, but this one I can remember when I was a kid. I sat with my mother. I was so excited. And at the end, crying, you know, and that night, you know, I was heartbroken about that. But one thing that I remember was the opening. Do you remember at the opening? It was night out in the woods with all these lights flashing in the trees, and something came down and went across the ground. And then the camera panned to some cars coming around the street. Remember? Remember how they did that? And then it came from the feet up. And it focused on this thing dangling from the waist. We didn't know what was going on. And then it was chasing and running around, and E.T. went into the city. And all of the story about with the bike and everything that was going on. Then E.T. died. He got sick. They found him. He wanted to go home. He was dying, and the boy was crying. And then a truck pulled over, and the guy got out and walked, and again they panned up the person. And you saw the same thing hanging off at the waist. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know. But that one picture, what they panned, that told the whole story to me about the guy. He took E.T. Where were they going? That was it. I remembered that movie forever, how those pictures told the story of what was going on. But it was that picture that stuck in my mind and stayed with me forever. Then I went to Gallaudet University, and I was a film major. In the classes, they were teaching me about that, you know, about hearing and that. I thought to myself, I can develop a story with just the pictures. And one project I had, visual expression. Visual expression. You know, before I take pictures with the camera, try to tell a story. But the teacher had a hard time explaining what this meant. The class, he wanted us to put expressions, your self-expression. And I was on myself, okay, fine. So I raised my hand. Remember, I was in a public school, the university, and it was kind of strange to show a face. You know, and then switch to grass and switch to lawn or switch to person running, whatever. I didn't understand anything about it. It was kind of strange to me, expression. But the teacher said music that have a sound with that. You know, that'll influence your life. It's this class, so express yourself. He said, express yourself. Not mine, but yours. So I saw the teacher. I couldn't, get the word. What the heck does he want from us? I just didn't understand. So the project was finished. I gave it to the teacher. Teacher said, yeah, that was good. And that was all over. But boy, that stuck in my mind. So after all of it, I transferred to RIT. I majored in technology. I took different courses with the camera, with the lenses, 30 millimeter, 50 millimeter, different lenses. There's a lot of things that we learned that you couldn't do, but one course, they had a course. Film, the grammar of film language. Film has a language for film? Not a person that gives out the paper that tells you what to do. That's not film language. There was a book about it. And boy, it had listings of a whole lot of topics. Do you know what those mean? Close-up, medium shot, wide shot. Wide shot tends, if you're telling a story, where it is. You show the woods, you show the house, you show somebody standing with a cigarette in his mouth. That's a wide shot. With a medium shot, you might get a tree, you show the person standing by the tree. A close-up, you're just shooting the head. So it means you could show the emotion. One moment you can impress with a close-up. So you had these various shots. You can have an angle offside, you tilt the camera. You'd have a long shot and show somebody's height. But I didn't know how that would work with me, how it matched with me. The voiceover, like news or a movie. You see a poor little boy who's sitting there and he's hungry, but the voice could explain what was going on. And of course that was lost for me. You didn't know what country it was. He needed money to support him, but, with captioning, you could show that. Poor boy, people who could hear, the voice would modulate itself and there'd be a story about that. But deaf films, I thought to myself, and there was more. Look at the list of things that they had. I want to let you know, the shots that you could run out of that, get the story of the script, like opening, you have the introduction of the characters and the conflict that's going to happen between the characters, and you develop that, and you can do it with close-up views and different, there was all kinds of conflict, how it would happen during the film, and then you'd resolve it at the end. But American films were happy with the conclusion. They tended to have a happy conclusion. But you need to follow a story. I encourage you to follow the story. And they had this entire list of things you could use to do that. In the class, there were a few different deaf people in the class. And I really went to work because I wanted to show the roles and I wanted to be able to change the juxtaposition of the people in the film. And also at RIT, the goal was, to have deaf people signing, captioning. Oh, they cut that out. The hands would go out of screen or out of focus, so we'd have to shoot it again. And the two of us, we were challenged by trying to do that. So I wanted to make sure, we couldn't just film in this space where normal signing happens. It was interesting, a couple of things I just showed you to the audience. I mean, it's like, wow. For freshmen, you had all these ideas. We wanted to film everything we could, and the audience was like, wow. So much happening in myself. I was sitting in the audience watching this, and I felt lost by what I was seeing. It just didn't feel natural to me to watch that stuff going on. I couldn't see that. It just didn't satisfy what I needed to see. That wasn't real world. So, you know, a phone for a deaf person, it was my mistake to have that. You know, what did I know back then? So I struggled to start with that project. I wanted to follow the rules, the language of movies, and juxtapose everything to make sure it made sense, but it just didn't feel natural. You know, I wanted to see something on screen that looked like my world, but I never did see it. Film language. You know, I got immersed in that. I was stuck in, you know, framing everything in just this close space. I thought, wait a minute, let me put this aside. I was outside of that. What are the rules and everything, you know, but they were developed by people following the tradition of the hearing population. You know, they all had sound to help influence what was going on in the action. But as a deaf individual, what did I want to see? That wasn't natural for me. So I started to focus on how I perceived the world. And I ascribed that to the films that I was shooting. You know what the script is? You have to write out. You know, you insert the house, what you're going to have in here, the character, the description of the characters and everything. But I thought, what's my first language? My first language is ASL. I can write English all right. I struggle with it to write things in English. But sign language is my first language. You know Bernard Bragg, you know, he was a teacher. He said, you know, ASL, you have cinematic or you've got film experience. You've seen that. So apply your ASL language to film and block it and shoot it like you would see it. And that's fine, but are they similar? No. ASL suggests more of what you want on film. Film is very limited, but ASL is multidimensional. So throw out the idea of a script. I developed what I call ASL scripts, and I filmed a project on how would I see things, and this is what it looked like. And this was my first script. I only had myself. I didn't have a team, you know, deaf people I was working with. I talked to them about that, and I had actors, and, you know, I had a videographer, and the set and everything, and this is what we got on. It was all based on ASL. And the result, after I put together a team to do it, was this.